On today's show, the Capitals get a big win over the New York Rangers, and Alex Ovechkin closes in on another milestone.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called the Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals picking up a big win over the New York Rangers on Saturday. What a show. What an offensive showing by both teams, back and forth. You take a look at the New York Rangers. What they're trying to do is get themselves out of the cellar. You take a look at where they were last season and take a look at them now in last place in the Metro. How do they turn things around? A tough question for that Rangers team. And ultimately, how did the Capitals pick up that win? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about that we know that Alex Ovechkin is chasing down Wayne Gretzky. But in the process of chasing Gretzky and in the process of going through his career, he is knocking out other milestones along the way. What's the next milestone he's closing in on? And then in the final segment, I'll talk about the Capitals as they prepare to take on the Buffalo Sabres. But just to get it going here, talking about Caps Rangers, and a bit of a question. What is going on with the Capitals netminders? We have talked about on the show Charlie Lindgren and his gaffes as of late here, the time that he scored on his own goal, the time that he was out of position and they scored a goal. And then you take a look at the game against the Rangers, and Logan Thompson shot the puck well, which it seemed like he was trying to shoot it to Martin Feravari, but ended up shooting it to the Rangers, and well, they found the back of the net, and that kind of definitely tilted the momentum in the Rangers' favor, at least to start the game. But the good thing about the Capitals, and the good thing that the Capitals playing a really poor Rangers team, is they found a way to overcome. And just watching the game, you can see the frustration that surrounds that Rangers organization. That I think that any player is pretty much expendable at this point. You know, you look at Zibanejad, and I would say you even take a look at the head coach, Peter Laviolette, that there's going to be a lot of changes out there before things get better. And I listened to a decent amount of NHL podcasts, and Frank Saravalli said that maybe they shouldn't panic, and this will just write itself out. In any event, the Capitals took advantage of a Rangers team that is almost a complete opposite of last year's Rangers team. So great for the Capitals as they continue to keep gaining momentum in the Metro, in the Eastern Conference. It was an exciting game. And what a game in particular. The final score, 7-4. A lot of offense. And to be clear here, a lot of offense on the Rangers' part as well. But all things considered, one thing about Spencer Carberry is he does not go into multiple games with the same lineup. If something doesn't work, he's not afraid of taking those forward lines, those deep pairings, and putting them in a blender. That was evident in the game against the Rangers. What is one of the biggest things that we've seen, or that we saw in the last game? Connor McMichael playing the center position again. We know that is his native position where he's played most in his career, but this season, he's played primarily on the wing, but all things considered, that third line played well with Connor McMichael at center. Alex Ovechkin, of course, is just defying odds, and I'll talk about in the second segment all the milestones he's crushing in on here, but Ovechkin's legend continues. There was a lot of concern when Ovechkin got injured against the Utah hockey team that, Is this a knee injury? How much time is he going to miss? Well, what did we notice? Just a couple days after the injury, he was back on the ice skating around, picking up exactly where he left off. And I think that he is going to catch Gretzky and pass him sooner than we all think. So let's talk about Ovechkin, who is once again reminding us why he is a legend. He was phenomenal in that game, scoring the game-winning goal and dishing out an assist. That goal, there's a lot of them, was Ovi's 19th of the season and his 4th in just 5 games since making his comeback. Quite a statement by Alex Ovechkin, 39 years old. And everyone said, well, it doesn't get any easier the older you get. Don't tell that to Ovi, as he is playing some of his best hockey at 39 years old, with 872 career goals. He's just 23 away from surpassing. When is it going to be, hitting up on 10 goals away and 5 goals a game? It's going to be just so exciting that I think that you're going to see the ratings for the NHL spike, especially for the Capitals, as we've heard that NHL rankings have kind of been in the dumps here as far as television broadcasts and that kind of things are concerned, that Ovechkin in this great chase is good for the brand of the NHL in general. So quite exciting times as being a Capitals fan, and just looking at the goal there in particular, the way he drove to the net and backhanded that shot past Quick was vintage Ovi. That he still has it. I don't really see any, I'm going to go ahead and say, if I'm going to just be an honest assessor, there were some defensive miscues by Ovechkin in the game, but all things considered, if he continues to keep scoring those goals, I think we kind of know that defense is not one of his strong suits, if I'm going to paint it with a general brush. But all things considered, he continues to dominate on the ice. And a momentum shift in this game for sure. Cap started off a bit rocky. Like I talked about, Logan Thompson did not do the Capitals any favor. I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of slack since he's been stellar all season, falling behind 1-0, but they quickly bounced back on a power play opportunity thanks to Dylan Strome. And that was one of the goals that, Jonathan Quick thought that it should have been goaltender interference, that Ovechkin was laying in the crease, but Ovi got out of there before that shot was fired. So all things considered, I think that Quick needs to just take it down a couple notches, even skated towards the bench going, you guys want to look at that again? And the coaches are like, no, we really don't. So who netted a crucial equalizer? It was a big momentum shift for the Capitals, as I think the feeling out there was, things aren't going to go so well. They got on the board first. Is this going to be a trap game? Your mind can start to race. But so for the Capitals to score a goal, that was a huge thing to shift the momentum. Connor McMichael added to the lead with his 17th goal of the season, breaking a 6-game scoring drought. And that's the thing that's being a bit more drawn into focus, that in a previous episode, I talked about that Spencer Carberry talked about the things that once were working in the beginning of the season that aren't working anymore, and it's scoring. Before this came Strome, McMichael, these kind of players that were on fire. That fire cooled off a little bit. So, you got to give it to Spencer Carberry. It's not just like, putting a bunch of names in a hat and, pulling them out. This is what my lines are going to be. He puts some thought into it, and he usually gets results. But Strome, McMichael, huge. Speaking of Strome, he was on fire in this game, recording a goal and 2 assists, his first goal in 9 games. And hopefully this is going to be the thing. And what was the problem? And if you're an everydayer of the show, I spoke about this earlier, was that it's a funny thing to say, but the Capitals got used to playing without Alex Ovechkin in the lineup. So when he was reintroduced back into the lineup, that means, well, there was a power shift and things moved around. I think that things will start to settle back into place now that Ovechkin is back. But both Strome and McMichael's performance are huge for their confidence going forward. Again, like I spoke about, McMichael returning to the center position. I'm not sure if we're going to see that against Buffalo, but you got to think it worked. probably might. And let's not forget about Andrew Mangiapane, who contributed with a goal and an assist while matching up nicely with Nick Dowd and Brandon Duhaime. Their aggressive forechecking is what really paid off for sure. And the thing I like about Mangiapane is you can put him in pretty much anywhere. We've seen him playing on virtually every line out there, and is a pretty good contributor. I don't think that he's one of the better guys on the team, but I think that he's a constant contributor. And let me restate that. I'm talking about the better players on the team. I'm talking about Ovechkin. I'm talking McMichael, that kind of thing. That Mangiapane is a good player, but the thing I like about his game the most is that he doesn't. You never see a leg in his game if he goes from the first line to the fourth line or anywhere in between. He plays well wherever he's placed. But Logan Thompson trying to brush his shoulders off that rocky start on the defensive front. Logan Thompson, who had that rocky start, rebounded nicely, posting 28 saves and keeping the Capitals in control, despite the Rangers trying to rally back. They're trying to put out that dumpster fire in New York, and the Rangers are not used to losing hockey games. So it was definitely a good thing that Thompson was able to shake off probably head games. He looked very irritated when he shot that puck to what appeared to be Martin Feravari. Did not reach his target, that he was able to brush that off and play a really solid game. Special teams, the power play continues to be strong, something that struggled a little bit earlier in the year, going 2 for 4 in this game. They've now scored on the PP in 6 of their last 7. So those are the things I talk about in the show all the time that special teams can factor in. As the further we get into the season, the more that's magnified, the more the games mean, the more the standings mean. So for the Capitals special teams to come up big, it was huge. And the PK was also shutting down all of the Rangers' attempts, all 4 of them. So things are firing very well. But to talk about head coach Spencer Carberry's adjustments, made some adjustments before the game, particularly reshuffling the third line. Lars Eller was moved to the wing. And that was one of the things that Carberry talked about, is that it's a different brand of hockey that Pittsburgh plays. And also, he's not as much of a younger guy anymore in the league. And also he was moving. So he was trying to give Lars Eller a bit of a break, take a little bit of that pressure off of him by putting him on the wing. All things considered, Lars Eller was a big contributor in the game. And I like Connor McMichael at center, and I think we'll see more of that. And Jacob Vrana drew back in and was on the right. The strategy seems to have worked, all things considered, as Eller found the back of the net for his 7th goal. So like I say, Carbs, when he makes these decisions, they pay off. And he's got a great hockey mind, and definitely why he could be in the running for coach of the year. But looking ahead, and I'll talk about this in the last segment, the Capitals have some positive momentum that they have acquired by winning this game. And, I still haven't forgot about last season in the playoffs and how the Rangers dispatched the Caps. So it was really a great thing for the Capitals to pick up this huge win, and we hope they can keep that momentum rolling forward. All right, so coming up here after the break, I'll talk about Alex Ovechkin. Listen, we always talk about on the show this season that he's chasing down Gretzky, but there's a lot of different other milestones that he's passing along the way. What's the next milestone on his list? I'll discuss straight ahead. From big upsets to game winners, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel apps gives you everything you need to place live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. And listen, there is a lot of football that's played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, but we're getting right up there to the playoffs, and maybe your team's in the playoff hunt, or maybe they're not. In any event, you can have vested interest in all of the games when you open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game, all of a sudden they got that much more exciting. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So talking Great Eight, the Great Eight. And we know the great chase, all of those things. He's chasing down Gretzky. But the fun thing to watch as his career goes on is the other milestones that he's knocking out between here and there. And how many will he ultimately knock down between here and retirement? It is definitely an exciting time to be a Capitals fan, that is for sure. And he's done nothing but be a constant contributor since making his return with that leg fracture. So since returning to the lineup, Ovi has really hit the ground running, racking up 4 goals in just 5 games. He's currently leading the Capitals with 18 goals in 23 games, if you can believe it. Just knocking it out of the park, or 19th goal of the season. He's defying odds and surprising a lot of people what he's accomplished thus far. And there was a lot of questions about, the Ovi that we're going to see coming back. Like I mentioned off the top of the show, what condition is he going to be in? All things considered, has been playing very well. And in the recent game against the Rangers, Ovechkin scored the game winner in a thrilling 7-4 victory, notching more goals to that record as he is in this historic chase. But to put things into perspective, Gretzky had 91 game-winning goals in his career, which ties him for 22nd all-time. So quite an accomplishment there. But who is the next player that he's chasing it down for game winners? Can you believe that Ovi's now just 2 goals away from breaking Jaromir Jagr's NHL record of 135 career game-winning goals? So that's what I'm talking about, that the milestones that we see between here in the end of the season that we're knocking out. And of course, all eyes are fixed on him chasing down Gretzky. But it's interesting, this other record and the things that we're not necessarily paying attention to as close is, the most game-winning goals. And I know that there's not the illustrious fanfare that's going to surround that one, but still another feather in his hat, if you will, in his NHL career. And his power play, that's a big thing as well. Let's not forget that he already holds the record for the most power play goals in the NHL, far ahead of Dave Andreychuk's 274. So that's the exciting part about being an Ovechkin fan. And, it's one of the things that I spoke about. It was a couple seasons ago already that it's really kind of come a lot sooner than anyone thought, that when we were talking about Ovechkin and chasing down Gretzky, and there was Gordie Howe and all these people between here and there, that it's just between him and the great one, and how exciting it is, but also to watch all that he has accomplished even before he has reached that goal. So the positive thing for me is that there's a lot of, hoopla surrounding him about, is he going to catch and pass Gretzky this season? And, the thing of it is, the thing that kind of gives me peace of mind is that I think that he can do it this year. I really do think he can get it done this season. But in the unfortunate event that he can't get it done this season, well, he's still under contract for one more season. So unless Ovechkin faces some sort of serious injury, unless the team falls on its face, I definitely think it's possible for him to catch Gretzky this season, but also the other ones like I talked about. It's quite exciting. Gretzky had 91 game-winning goals in his career, which ties him for 22nd all-time alongside Mark Recchi. Right now, Ovechkin is the active leader in game-winning goals. Sidney Crosby is a distant second with 93. Scoring in those clutch moments is such a crucial part of a player's legacy. And it looks like Ovi could break not only Gretzky's all-time goals record of 894, but also become the all-time leader in game-winning goals before he wraps it all up. So just kind of adding to the legacy, the folklore almost that we'll talk about after Ovechkin retires is just that we're lucky enough to see it in our lifetime, the truly great things that Ovechkin has accomplished. And, it's interesting that, people will talk about, they'll try to kind of sully his name by saying that there is a lot of empty netters in there. But what have we seen here as of late from Ovechkin? Yeah, he can still find the back of the net with a netminder in the net. So to anyone thinks that Alex Ovechkin can just score goals when it's an empty netter, well, you're definitely not paying attention to the team. He is definitely firing on all cylinders, and just a great time to be an Alex Ovechkin fan and a great time to be a Capitals fan as well. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the Caps as they prepare to take on the Buffalo Sabres. The worst in the Eastern Conference versus the worst in the Eastern Conference. It should be a fun one. I'll discuss next. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or you're paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. And that happened to me. I went to Rocket Money and I found out I was paying twice for a video streaming service. Why was I doing that? So Rocket Money definitely helped save me money. Let it help you save money as well. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with rocketmoney.com. That's go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. One more time, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team. Every day, make sure and subscribe, follow, like, share, all of those things on YouTube. It really helps grow the channel. Just go over to Locked On Capital on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give the videos a thumbs up, leave some comments. I sure would appreciate it. All right, in this next segment here, we're going to talk about the Caps as they prepare to take on the Buffalo Sabres, the best in the Eastern Conference, worst versus the worst. And the thing that I talk about, and if you are an everydayer of the show, I talk about that it's easy to fall into, where I'm going with this, a trap game. It's of utmost importance that the Capitals take the Buffalo Sabres very seriously as they are wanting to play spoiler. They are trying to salvage their season somewhat to get themselves out of the cellar. And, they're playing for pride. They're playing for future jobs. And the thing that I know historically, I'm not just talking this season, I'm talking, the last few seasons here or so, that the Capitals at points have struggled against the Sabres. So I think it's of utmost importance that they apply the same pressure against the Sabres would, say versus one of the better teams in the NHL. And I think as long as they do that, play a 60-minute game, all things will be going very well for the Caps. But taking a look at it, right now, the Capitals are absolutely on fire, sitting on top of the Eastern Conference with 55 points as I record this right now. Again, everything is always subject to change and moving around this and that and the other thing. But the Maple Leafs 54, in the Atlantic, in the Metro, the Capitals 55. The only team in the NHL, or two teams rather, is the Winnipeg Jets with 56. and the Vegas Golden Knights with 57. So the Capitals are in a really good position, despite what I spoke of off the top segment there, saying that, Spencer Carberry talked about things that necessarily aren't working. I'm glad that he's staying ahead of things and not letting this team spit out of control. But all things considered, the Capitals are in a really good position. So you take a look at the Capitals and what they've accomplished. I think, like I say, play 60-minute game against that Sabres team. I think they'll just be able to knock it out of the park. But in their last 8 games, they've gone 5-2-1 with a standout moment being that exhilarating 7-4 victory over the Rangers. That's where the Capitals are at, riding high with that big win. And, it's a positive momentum. But to be fair here, like I said, the Rangers did give them a bit of pushback. So that's what I'm talking about. And the good thing I like about this year's Capitals team versus other years' teams is it's not just Alex Ovechkin. It's Tom Wilson. It's Strome. It's Connor McMichael. This team is really built to withstand most any storm. You take a look at the Capitals, how much time they missed with Alex Ovechkin out of the lineup. They still found a way to win games. Many people outside of the DMV area or that necessarily weren't Capitals fans thought that it would spell doom and gloom for the Capitals with Ovi out of the lineup. Not the case. And the good thing about this year's team versus other teams that we've seen is that they're also getting scoring defensively as well. And let's talk about the defense. They're not just holding the line, they're actively contributing to the offense. In fact, they've already matched their total goal count from last season. Exciting times ahead as Ovechkin inches closer to Wayne Gretzky's legendary all-time record. So you take a look at the defense. As I'm talking about Chychrun, we've seen Martin Feravari kick it in here. It's good that the blue line, of course, is doing what they do best in helping the puck not find the back of the net, but also getting involved in the scoring. Not every team has that. You take a look at some of the teams around the league, they're sound defensively, maybe don't necessarily have an offensive flair. That is why the Capitals are playing so well. So now let's take a look at the other side of the coin and take a look at where the Buffalo Sabres are. Not going so well for them. Let's take a quick look at the struggles of the Sabres, who have had a rough road trip, finishing with a 1-2-1 record and heading into this matchup on a 3-game losing streak. So that's one of the things that we know for sure is they definitely want to get back in the win column. And I think they have some great talented players on the Buffalo Sabres, and they would love nothing more than to A, get back in the win column, and B, knock down a really good team. But talking in their most recent matchup here, saw them fall to the Golden Knights, but Jason Zucker is still finding the back of the net. He recently scored his 15th goal of the season, showing some improvement over last year. So you take a look at it, they do have some offensive power. I think it's important not to underestimate that team. And the Capitals, if they can do that on paper, like I say, the Sabres should be an absolute slam dunk. And 2 more points for the Capitals. That would be a really good thing. Now, as they return home, goalie James Reimer, who made his first start since December, has expressed confidence in the team's resilience. Captain Rasmus Dahlin also emphasized the need for players to elevate their game. They'll need to ramp it up, especially as they get ready to face the Caps team. So I think they'll be up for it. But the thing of it is about the Buffalo Sabres, like I've talked about for years, is I do think that they're not going to be a team that wanders in the wilderness forever. And I know I say this every year. I've said that about Ottawa before and, all these different kind of teams. But I definitely think that that Buffalo Sabres team has a lot of raw potential that at some point they should be really good. I think there's a lot of things that are kind of working against them. Is they are a team that is a younger team, but I think if they added more experienced NHL players on that team, maybe a different head coach. And I know that that's the easy thing to always say is you should change the head coach and that. But I do think that would be the case, and probably the GM of that team as well, as I think that potentially that they could be a lot better a team. And the one thing I know for sure, just from doing this show and kind of seeing what other podcasts and what other kind of publications are out there is that the fan base for Buffalo, they really love that team. That if they could put a winning product together out on the ice, I think you could really watch that team skyrocket to the top. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.